The German Shepherd wouldn't stop digging. Her paws tore through frozen earth like she was trying to reach the center of the world, breath coming in sharp bursts that turned to fog in the November air. Officer James Hardy stood above her, flashlight trembling in his hand, watching soil give way to fabric, fabric to flesh, flesh to a face he thought he'd never see again. How could a man buried 6 months ago still be warm? Before we continue, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. James Hardy had been a K-9 officer for 14 years, long enough to know that dogs didn't lie. People did. Evidence could be planted, witnesses could forget, cameras could malfunction. But a trained search dog, especially one like Luna, never pointed her nose toward nothing. She was 5 years old. A German Shepherd with a black and tan coat that gleamed like polished wood under moonlight. Her eyes were sharp, focused, the kind of eyes that saw through walls and lies and time itself. James had raised her from 8 weeks old, watched her grow from a clumsy puppy into the best tracker the county had ever seen. She'd found missing children in snowstorms, located elderly dementia patients wandering through cornfields at midnight, and once tracked a fugitive across 12 miles of wilderness without losing the scent. James trusted Luna more than he trusted most people, maybe more than he trusted himself. He was 47 now, graying at the temples, shoulders still broad, but carrying weight that had nothing to do with muscle. His wife had left 3 years ago, tired of the long nights and the nightmares he brought home. His daughter called once a month, duty more than love. The job had hollowed him out, left him with Luna and a small house that echoed when he walked through it. But he was good at what he did. Patient, observant. The kind of officer who noticed when something didn't fit, when a story had edges that didn't line up. Tonight was supposed to be routine. A hiker reported strange sounds near the old logging road, probably just deer or a black bear preparing for winter. James had volunteered for the call because sitting at home felt worse than walking through cold darkness. Luna rode beside him in the patrol car, alert and ready, like she always was. They'd parked at the trailhead just after sunset. The forest was thick here, dense with pine and oak, the kind of place where sound got swallowed and directions meant nothing. James clicked on his flashlight and let Luna lead. She moved with purpose, nose low, tail straight. Not the loose, wandering search of a dog following rabbits. This was something else. 10 minutes in, Luna stopped. Her body went rigid, ears forward, a low whine building in her throat. James had seen this before, the moment when a dog caught the scent of something dead. But Luna didn't just alert. She started digging. "Easy, girl," James said, kneeling beside her. "Show me." Luna's paws worked faster. Dirt flew. James pulled out his gloves and helped, brushing away leaves and topsoil. 3 inches down, his fingers hit fabric. Blue denim. He froze. "Luna, back!" She didn't back. She dug harder, frantic now, like time was running out. James grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I need forensics to my location." "Possible 1054. Dead body. But as he cleared more dirt away, as the shape became clear, James felt something cold slide down his spine, because the body wasn't decomposed. No bloating, no insects, no smell of rot. The skin was pale but intact. The clothes were clean. And when James pressed 2 fingers against the neck, searching for what he knew wouldn't be there, the flesh was still warm. However, what James didn't know was that this impossible discovery was only the beginning of something far darker. The forensics team arrived within an hour. Floodlights turned the forest into a crime scene, harsh white light cutting through shadows. Detective Ava Watson stood beside James, watching the medical examiner kneel beside the body. She was 38, sharp-featured, with black hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. "You said the dog found this?" Ava asked. James nodded. Luna. She wouldn't stop digging. Ava looked at the German shepherd, who sat perfectly still now, watching the body like it might move. And the victim? Thomas Wayland, James said quietly. Age 52. Reported missing 6 months ago while hiking this same trail. They found his car at the trailhead but never found him. He paused. Until tonight? Ava crouched beside the medical examiner. Time of death? The examiner, a gray-haired man named Dr. Patel, frowned. That's the problem. Based on body temperature and rigor mortis, I'd say less than 4 hours. But you're telling me he's been missing for 6 months. That's what the file says, Ava replied. Then the file's wrong, or this isn't Thomas Wayland, or something very strange is happening here. Dr. Patel lifted the victim's wrist, examining it under a portable light. No signs of decomposition, no insect activity, no animal predation. If this man's been dead for 6 months, he should be bones. James felt Luna press against his leg. He reached down, fingers finding the soft fur behind her ears. She was trembling. In 14 years of working together, he'd never felt her tremble. Ava stood, pulling out her phone. I'm calling his family. They have a right to know. Wait, James said. Something's not adding up. What? He pointed at the body. Look at his hands. Ava leaned closer. Thomas Wayland's hands were clenched into fists, fingernails digging into his palms, hard enough to draw blood. Fresh blood. People don't make fists after they die, Dr. Patel said slowly. Muscles relax. This is intentional. Like he was holding on to something, or fighting something, right up until the end. James's radio crackled. Unit 12, this is dispatch. We just got a call from Ridgewood Cemetery. Someone reported a disturbance at grave site 437. Ava and James locked eyes. Whose grave? Ava asked. The dispatcher's voice was hesitant. Thomas Wayland. Buried 3 months ago after the family held a memorial service. The forest suddenly felt smaller, the light colder. James looked down at the body, then at Luna, who hadn't taken her eyes off the dead man's face. If Thomas Wayland is buried at Ridgewood, James said carefully, then who the hell is this? But the answer to that question would force James to confront something he thought he'd left, buried years ago. The cemetery was quiet, gates locked. But the patrol car's headlights caught the damage immediately. Grave 447 had been disturbed, the earth torn up, headstone knocked aside. And the casket, a simple pine box, lay open and empty. Ava stepped carefully around the scattered dirt. Someone dug him up. Or something crawled out, James muttered, then caught himself. He didn't believe in ghost stories, didn't believe in anything he couldn't see and touch and prove. But Luna was still trembling, and dogs didn't tremble over coincidences. They returned to the station just before dawn. The body from the forest was already at the county morgue, awaiting autopsy. Ava spread crime scene photos across her desk, while James made coffee, the bitter kind that tasted like regret and too many late nights. Let's go through this again, Ava said. Thomas Wayland, age 52. Reported missing 6 months ago. Extensive search turned up nothing. Family held a memorial service 3 months later, buried an empty casket at Ridgewood. She tapped one photo. Tonight, we find a body in the exact location where Wayland went missing. The body looks like Wayland, but it's fresh. Meanwhile, his grave has been dug up. James set down 2 mugs. You think someone faked his death? I think someone's playing a very sick game. Ava pulled up a file on her computer. I did some digging into Wayland's background. He was a wildlife biologist, worked for the State Conservation Department. Spent most of his time studying predator patterns, wolf reintroduction programs. She paused. 3 weeks before he disappeared, he filed a report claiming he'd found evidence of illegal animal trafficking in the state forest. Exotic species. Dangerous ones. What kind of evidence? Tracks. Kill patterns. He said something was hunting in those woods that shouldn't be there. Ava leaned back. His supervisor dismissed it, said Wayland was stressed, seeing things, but Wayland kept investigating on his own. James felt something click into place. He was getting too close to something. Maybe. His wife said he'd been receiving threatening phone calls in the weeks before he vanished. Anonymous. Always the same message. Stop looking, or you'll find more than you bargained for. Luna, who had been sleeping under James's desk, suddenly lifted her head. Her ears swiveled toward the window, and a low growl rumbled in her chest. James followed her gaze. Outside, the parking lot was empty, nothing but street lights and shadows. But Luna's eyes were locked on something he couldn't see. "What is it, girl?" The lights in the station flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. Ava frowned. Probably just the old wiring. But James knew better. He'd seen Luna react to threats before, had learned to trust her instincts, even when his own senses gave him nothing. He stood, hand moving instinctively to the weapon at his hip. The phone on Ava's desk rang, shrill in the quiet. She picked it up. "Detective Watson." Her face went pale. "When?" She hung up, looked at James. "That was the morgue. Dr. Patel wants us there immediately. He said something's happening to the body." They arrived to find Dr. Patel in the examination room, standing several feet back from the table where Thomas Wayland's body lay. Or what had been Thomas Wayland's body. Because now, under the harsh fluorescent lights, James could see what had made the doctor call. The corpse's skin was changing, darkening, pulling tight against bone. Decomposition, but accelerated, like someone had pressed fast forward on decay. "I've never seen anything like this," Dr. Patel said, voice shaking. "When I left the room an hour ago, he looked almost alive. Now," he gestured helplessly at the withering form on the table. "It's like his body is catching up to where it should have been 6 months ago." Ava stepped closer, ignoring Dr. Patel's warning. "Did you find anything during the initial examination? Cause of death?" "That's just it. There was no clear cause. No wounds, no signs of trauma, no toxins in the preliminary blood work. It's like his body just stopped." Dr. Patel pulled up an X-ray on the light box. "But look at this. His lungs. See those shadows?" James leaned in. Dark patches scattered throughout the lung tissue, irregular and dense. "What is that?" "I don't know. But it's not cancer. Not fluid. Not any pathology I recognize. It's almost like something foreign was introduced into his system. Something that doesn't belong." Dr. Patel's hand shook as he pointed. "And here, in his stomach, I found organic matter, plant material. But it's not from any species native to this region." Ava pulled out her phone, taking photos. "Can you identify it?" "Not yet. I've sent samples to the university lab, but it'll take days to get results." Dr. Patel looked at the rapidly decomposing body. "Whatever happened to Thomas Wayland, it wasn't natural. And I think whoever did this didn't expect him to be found." James thought about Luna digging with desperate urgency. About the grave dug up, about the timing of it all. "Someone wanted us to find him tonight," he said quietly. But why? The answer would come sooner than he expected, and it would shatter everything he thought he knew about the man he'd been searching for. They returned to the forest at first light. Luna led the way, moving with renewed purpose, no longer trembling, but focused. James had learned long ago to follow when she moved like this. She knew something he didn't. Ava walked beside him, her weapon drawn, eyes scanning the tree line. "What are we looking for?" "I don't know," James admitted. "But Luna does." They'd been walking for 20 minutes when Luna stopped at the base of an old oak tree. She sat, the signal for a find, and looked up. James followed her gaze. Carved into the bark, barely visible beneath moss and age, were words. The truth is buried with the lies. Wayland carved this, Ava said, touching the rough letters. This is his handwriting. I've seen his field notes. Luna moved again, circling around the tree, nose to the ground. She stopped at a cluster of rocks, began pawing at them. James and Ava pulled the stones away, revealing a hollow beneath. Inside was a waterproof container. James opened it carefully. Inside were journals, dozens of them, filled with Thomas Wayland's precise handwriting, photographs, maps, and a USB drive. Ava grabbed the drive, connected it to her phone. Files loaded. Video files. She clicked the first one. Thomas Wayland's face filled the screen, gaunt and exhausted, forest visible behind him. "If you're watching this, I'm already dead," he said, voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "My name is Thomas Wayland, and I've uncovered something that powerful people don't want found. 3 months ago, I discovered evidence of an illegal operation in the state forest. Not just animal trafficking, human trafficking." James felt ice in his veins. Wayland continued. "They're using the forest as a dumping ground, bodies of people no one will look for. Transients, undocumented immigrants, runaways. They stage them as animal attacks, bury them deep, let nature erase the evidence." His hands shook as he held up photographs. "I have proof, names, locations. A trafficking ring operating across 3 states, protected by people in law enforcement, in government. I tried to report it through official channels, but every door I knocked on slammed in my face." He leaned closer to the camera. "Someone high up is protecting them. Someone with the power to make bodies disappear and investigations die. I'm hiding these files because I know they're coming for me. I know I won't survive. But maybe someone will find this. Maybe someone will care enough to finish what I started." The video ended. Ava was pale. "James, if this is real—" "It's real," James said, looking at Luna. The dog sat perfectly still, watching him with those knowing eyes. She knew. That's why she brought us here. That's why she wouldn't stop digging. Ava scrolled through the other files, lists of names, dates, locations, and then, buried in a folder marked "Protected," a document that made James's blood run cold. Because at the top of the list of law enforcement officers involved in the operation was a name he recognized, a name that made everything make terrible, awful sense. Captain Jordan Murray, James's supervisor, the man who had dismissed Wayland's initial reports, the man who had personally overseen the investigation into Wayland's disappearance, the man who had declared it a cold case and moved on. "We can't go back to the station," James said quietly. "If Murray knows we have this." Ava nodded. "Then we're next." Luna suddenly barked, sharp and urgent. James spun around. Through the trees, he saw movement, figures in dark clothing, spreading out, surrounding them. "Run," Ava said. They ran. Luna led the way through underbrush and over fallen logs, moving like she'd memorized every inch of this forest. Behind them, James heard shouting, the crack of branches, the sounds of pursuit. His radio crackled with Murray's voice. "Unit 12, report your location." James ripped the radio from his belt and threw it away. They couldn't trust anything now, couldn't trust anyone. They burst into a clearing, and James recognized it. The spot where they'd found the body. The spot where Thomas Wayland had been buried after they killed him, dug up months later to be staged somewhere else, to throw off investigation. But Luna had found him too soon, had ruined whatever plan was in motion. Ava stumbled, went down hard. James grabbed her arm, pulled her up. "Keep moving." But then Luna stopped. She turned, faced the forest, and her hackles rose. From the trees emerged Captain Murray, flanked by 4 men James didn't recognize, all armed. Murray smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "James, I hoped it wouldn't come to this." "You killed him," James said. "You killed Wayland because he found out what you were doing." "He should have stayed in his lane," Murray replied. "He should have studied his wolves and left the real predators alone." He raised his weapon. "And now you've made the same mistake," Luna growled, low and dangerous. Murray glanced at her. "That dog of yours is smart. Smarter than most people I know. Shame she'll have to—" Luna lunged. Not at Murray, but at the man to his right, the one whose weapon had shifted toward Ava. 70 pounds of trained muscle hit the gunman's chest, and they went down in a tangle. Chaos erupted. Ava fired, hitting one of Murray's men. James tackled Murray, and they rolled across dead leaves and dirt. The USB drive fell from James's pocket, skittered across the ground. Murray reached for it, fingers closing around the plastic. James drove a fist into his ribs, grabbed the drive back, threw it to Ava. "Go." She ran. Luna broke away from the downed gunman, blood on her muzzle, and followed. James was right behind them when he felt the bullet punch into his shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the ground hard. Murray stood over him, weapon aimed at his head. "It didn't have to be this way," Murray said. Luna appeared from nowhere, silent and fast. She hit Murray from the side, jaws closing around his arm. The gun fired wild. Murray screamed, and then Ava was there, weapon pressed to Murray's temple, and the forest went quiet except for heavy breathing and Luna's low growl. But the real shock was still coming. The truth that would make James question everything he thought he knew about the case. The FBI arrived within 2 hours. Ava had made the call from a secure line, bypassing local law enforcement entirely. By sunset, the forest was swarming with federal agents. Murray and his men were in custody. The USB drive and journals were in federal hands, and James sat in the back of an ambulance while a paramedic stitched up his shoulder, Luna pressed against his leg. Ava approached, exhaustion written across her face. The feds confirmed it. Everything Wayland documented is real. The trafficking ring, the corruption, all of it. They're issuing warrants for 47 people across 3 states. This is going to be big. James nodded slowly. And Wayland. His real body was in the grave at Ridgewood. DNA confirmed it. He's been dead for 6 months, just like we thought. Ava sat beside him on the ambulance bumper. But the body we found tonight, the one in the forest, that wasn't him. James looked up sharply. "What?" "DNA came back an hour ago. The man we found was Daniel Ortega, age 29, reported missing from Denver 2 weeks ago. One of the trafficking victims." Ava's voice was soft. "They dressed him in Wayland's clothes, planted him where Wayland died, tried to make it look like Wayland had been alive this whole time. Create confusion, muddy the investigation if anyone ever came looking." "But why?" James asked. "Why go through all that trouble?" "Because Wayland's case was getting attention. His wife had hired a private investigator, started pushing for the case to be reopened. Murray needed to control the narrative, make it look like Wayland faked his death, was unstable. He planned to find the body during a routine patrol, close the case as a suicide or exposure, make all the questions go away." Ava looked at Luna. "But your dog found him too early, before Murray could stage the scene properly. She saved that man's story from being erased." James ran his fingers through Luna's fur. She looked up at him with those clear, knowing eyes. She knew something was wrong from the start. She wouldn't let it go. A federal agent approached, a woman in her 50s with graying hair and sharp eyes. "Officer Hardy, I'm Special Agent Charles. I wanted to thank you. Your dog's persistence broke this case wide open." She crouched beside Luna, held out her hand. Luna sniffed it carefully, then allowed a gentle pat. "She's remarkable." "She's family," James said quietly. Charles stood. We'll need full statements from both of you, but that can wait until you've been treated. The Bureau will be in touch about commendations. What you've uncovered here, it's going to save lives. Dozens of families will finally get answers about their missing loved ones." As Charles walked away, Ava turned to James. "You knew, didn't you? When Luna wouldn't stop digging, you knew something was wrong." James thought about it, about the years of trust built between him and his partner, about the countless times she'd been right when he'd been ready to give up, about the language between them that needed no words. "I knew she wouldn't lie," he said. "Dogs don't have agendas. They just show you the truth." That night, James drove home with Luna in the passenger seat. His shoulder ached, his mind was exhausted. But for the first time in 3 years, his house didn't feel empty when he walked through the door. He made dinner, shared pieces of chicken with Luna, and sat on the back porch watching stars appear in the darkening sky. His phone buzzed. A text from his daughter. "Dad, I saw the news. Are you okay? Can I call you?" James smiled, typed back, "I'm okay. Call any time, I'd like that." Luna rested her head on his knee, and James realized something he'd forgotten in the years of grief and isolation. He wasn't alone. He never had been. He'd just stopped paying attention to the one thing that had stayed constant, the partner who never judged, never left, never stopped believing that truth mattered. "Good girl," he whispered, scratching behind her ears. "The best girl." 3 weeks later, James stood at Thomas Wayland's real grave, freshly marked with proper flowers and a new headstone that read, "He sought the truth and gave his life for it." Wayland's wife stood beside him, tears on her cheeks. "Thank you," she said, "for not giving up, for finding him." James shook his head. "I didn't find him. Luna did." He looked down at his partner, sitting perfectly at attention beside the grave. She knew he had a story that needed to be told. As they walked back to the car, past rows of silent stones and eternal rest, James thought about all the voices that had been silenced, all the people whose stories had been buried with them. And he made a promise to Thomas Wayland, to Daniel Ortega, to all the ones who couldn't speak anymore. He would keep listening. He would keep following when Luna pointed her nose toward truth, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Some voices demand to be heard, and sometimes all it takes is a dog who won't stop digging and a man who finally learns to trust what she's trying to tell him. The investigation would continue for months, bringing down a network that had operated for years. Dozens of families would get closure. Dozens more victims would be identified and returned home. And in the center of it all, because of a German shepherd who refused to let injustice lie quiet in the dark, the truth finally came to light. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady and sure, the way truth always does when someone cares enough to uncover it. James Hardy had spent 14 years learning to listen to his partner. Tonight, standing in the cemetery with Luna beside him, and justice finally served, he understood that sometimes the most important conversations are the ones we have without words. Sometimes the most powerful voices belong to those who cannot speak at all. They just need someone willing to hear them. If this story touched something in you, hit that like button and share it with someone you want to hear with. Subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss another story.